Hi, my name is Ari. I'm Dutch and I've learned Russian in the last 5 years. So in this video, I wanted to do a little series on talks why Russian is easy, especially if you're focusing on spoken Russian, because there are just so many videos out there that say that Russian is super difficult and it'll take you years to learn it. So I wanted to give my perspective on a couple of things why I think Russian is easy. And the first thing why Russian is easy to speak is the flexible word order that there is in Russian. So for those of you who don't know, for those of you who don't know, in Russian there is a flexible word order. So that means that if you say anything basically, you can put whatever word at any point in the phrase. There are some exceptions to this, but in generally speaking, you're very flexible in where you put every single word. So like a little example, for example, I go to the cinema. Я иду в кино. You can also say в кино я иду, or в кино иду я. It doesn't really matter. Everything means the same. Whereas in English, if you take a sentence, you need to be very careful that you basically always start with I go to the cinema. And if you say to the cinema I go, you suddenly sound very dramatic. And in this specific case, it still works in English, but once you get a little bit more complicated, then suddenly things don't really work anymore, and you really need to focus on getting the exact word order correct. And this is actually the main thing that for Russian speakers is very difficult in English, because in Russian it's so flexible, you can put any word wherever you want basically, whereas in English you need to be very careful in the way you construct it. And for Russians it's difficult, but for us, since we are learning Russian, it's actually a lot easier to implement this. And the main benefit of this is that you can start a sentence not completely already knowing how you're going to finish it. And this allows you to be speaking a lot more fluently, since you can just start, if you have a general idea of what you're going to say, then you can just start saying the sentence and then kind of think of words as you go, which is very important because it just gives your mind a lot more time to think of stuff. Whereas in English, or if you would be learning Spanish, for example, you first need to think the entire phrase, exactly which words you're going to say, before you can start speaking. And in Russian, you can already start speaking and then kind of think of what you're going to say. And it just makes you sound a lot more fluent for the level that you are at. So that's why I'm very happy that in Russian there's a flexible word order, because it just makes everything so much easier to be speaking. Also, it just adds a specific type of poetry, something poetic to the language, because you can switch up things, and basically the word that comes at the end of the sentence most of the time sort of gets emphasized. So that means that it's more important. So if you want to really add the emphasis on something, you can, like for example, in the phrase that I said before, я иду в кино. In that case, в кино, like to the cinema, is the main thing. You're saying, I'm going to the cinema. But if you say, в кино иду я, then you're saying that I am going to the cinema, and that the other things are kind of given, but you're emphasizing that в кино иду я, that I am going to the cinema, not someone else, I'm going. And if you switch around a little more, я в кино иду. In that way, you would say, иду means to go by foot. So you're saying, I'm walking to the cinema. I'm not biking, I'm not going by car, I'm not taking public transport. В кино я иду. You're going on foot. So you can play around with that, but the main thing just stands, because Russian word order is so incredibly flexible, it just makes it so much easier to be speaking, and you should use that to your advantage. That was it.